If you're building a DBT project, at some point you're going to run into macros, and macros allow you to use things like variables and conditions and really make your project more dynamic, similar to how you would use a function in other programming languages. But a big part of macros is using Jinja, and Jinja is a templating language. It's a big part of DBT. At the same time, if you're not really super familiar with it, you're leaving a lot of functionality on the table that you could be taking advantage of. So in this video, what I want to do is share 3 example use cases of Jinja within a macro to create a little bit more of a dynamic workflow, and at least just give you some ideas on things that you could do with it as well. And just for context, this video that you're going to see is pulled from my full course on DBT, which is called the Playbook for DBT. So we're hopping into the middle of a working session type of lesson that we're going through creating basically an audit log type of macro. And the idea for this is every time DBT runs, we're going to have it run some code and log something in our database so that we can track it. There's other ways to do it, but I wanted to show how you could use Jinja and use macros to create your own custom workflow of this so that, again, you can just get a better understanding of how this works and put the pieces together to do whatever else is you want to do on your own. So with that said, let's now hop into this video. In this lesson, we're going to look more into macros and Jinja and how to use some of the common functions within it. For example, how to use set, how to do if-else conditions, and how to use the run query function to execute our SQL commands. So first things first, let's just look at one of these at a time. This is going to be like a working session. So if we look at our audit log macro here, we have this query, looks fine, it works, but we can do better. So the first thing is using the set function, and set allows you to set essentially variables within your macro that you can then reuse. And the way to do this would be curly brackets and the percent signs. And within here, we're just going to say set, and then the name of the variable equals value. And that's essentially what it's going to be. And we mentioned this in the original section on macros, but it's best practice to set these at the top. So whether it's in your query or whether it's in a macro, setting this at the top is just best practice. So if we take a look at this, what are some values that we can pull out to set within here that potentially could be different for different people, or we just want to make it a little bit more cleaned up? The first things that I see are 1, the utilities, the schema, and then the name of the table for this. We can do this here. And again, this might not be true in your real scenario. You may always want to hard code it, but I think it's still good practice to set it outside in case you ever want to change it. For example, let's say we want to call this audit schema. And again, I think another reason here is just for readability. We'll take this value and we'll set it as a string right here. So now we're saying set audit schema, essentially a variable here, equal to this value. And the way that we would use this would be similar to how we're using this from the arguments of the macro itself. So what we'll do is replace this, double curly brackets, and use the name of the set key, which would be audit schema. And this is going to replace this here. And we can do the same here now for DBT audit. So, and we can copy paste this, and instead of schema, let's say table, and we'll call it DBT audit. Now we can do the same thing here, place this, and now this is a little bit more dynamic. And we could do the same thing down here as well within this query. It's the same. I'm sure there's a way we could consolidate these, but just for the sake of example here, let's just copy and paste. Just a good practice to keep, and we will replace this here. All right, so just to confirm everything's good, let's do DBT run, staging, payment, app, transactions. You can pick whatever one you want. I just want to prove that this still works even when it's written like this. Okay, nothing broke. And if we go to our Snowflake table, we can see we have a new record right here. So everything worked as expected. Great. And now the last part of this fully qualified name would be the name of the database. In our case, it's probably always going to be this, but we want to make sure that it's always operating in a specific place and we can control it, and then it's dynamic depending on who runs it. One thing that we can do here is to set this, instead of being hard-coded, to be based on the target dot, and this is going to pull from our profile target. So again, remember, these are targets and the database will be this. So in this scenario, it would be the same. But again, imagine if you had a different database for CI, for prod, and you wanted to audit these things separately. Maybe you don't want to mix up the auditing of some developers with the auditing of production. Again, just as an example, this is how we could do it to make sure that it's always dependent on our target. So that's how we could switch that, and this would work. The other thing that we can set here now is the query. So the query is right here. And right now, this is going to work. There's nothing wrong with it. But a lot of times when you run queries, you want to have it wrapped a certain way and just be more formal with how you execute your queries. And DBT offers a nice way to do this through what's called the run query function. It's the Jinja function, and I'll pull up the docs here. And what it is, it's a built-in macro that provides a way to wrap a statement block. And statements are SQL queries that hit a database and return results. There's some complexity behind it, but essentially using run query makes it a lot easier. And it's going to return a table object with the result of the query, which in our case, we don't really need to return anything. It's just fine. So again, if there is nothing, it just will be none, and that's okay for our case. And we're going to use it just as a way to execute a query. We're not going to return results, but I do want to point out that if you do want to use this, you can set it as a result. So a lot of times what happens here is you combine setting some sort of variable here. So set equals to running a query. So in this case, it's running, you set the query and you're running this query within here, which is similar to what we're about to do. But this does get a result set. You get the result and then you do some more stuff with it. So that's another example of using this in a little bit more complicated way than we are, but I do want to point that out. So with that said, let's see how we would use this in this example. What we'll do here is we're going to do something similar, like I said, to running the query. So actually, I'm going to copy this here just to make it a little easier, and we'll walk through this. So what we're going to do is write a set, and we'll call this audit query. And because we're going to do this on multiple lines, we can wrap it like this with an end set rather than having it all on one line like this, and then you don't need that. But we're going to do it on multiple lines here. So what I'll do is move this within the set. So here is our query to insert the value. Now we've set the query, and now we want to use the run query command to do it. And what we're going to do is, again, similar to what's going on here, which is use the do command. You may not have to, but we're going to do it just to be more formal. And it's do run query. So again, it's that function that we're talking about. But in our case, the query that we want it to run is audit query. Technically, you could just copy and paste this whole thing in here and it would work, but we're being a little bit more clean, a little more structured doing it this way. So now we have our audit query getting set here, and then we're going to run it right here. And we're setting these values up top. So we're getting a little bit more formalized here. And we can do the same thing down here as well. So let's say we want to do, I'll call this audit prep query. It will be this create statement. And then we'll wrap this at the end with end set. Now we've set this query, and then we will do the same thing down here with this do statement, but instead of audit query, it's audit prep query. So again, just adding a little bit more structure to how we're doing this. So let's make sure that this works and just run this. We expect it should, but always good to test. Okay, so that was successful. Let's go over to Snowflake, check it out. 41, 42, close enough. Yep, this is the one. So that worked once again, as expected. So now the last part here is talking about some if condition. And if we look at our Snowflake results here, maybe this is fine, but I think we want to add some sort of indicator for the run object whenever it's run end and run start, rather than just leaving it blank. Right now it's blank because there's no name of the object. If you remember, the on run start, on run end context is outside of the individual objects that are running. It's the entire run. So let's see how we can add a condition to set that to something specific in those scenarios. So where we're going to do this here is within the set block, because what we're going to do is change the way that this compiles based on a particular value, based on a condition. And what we want to make sure it changes is this. So the way this works, just like most other Jinja, is starting with the curly brackets, and in our case, a percentage sign. And what I'll say is the condition. So if condition, make this generic to start, if condition, then it will continue on to this, else, and then whatever we want in here. And then just like we end a set, we're going to end if. So if this is true, whatever we say here, compile with this query, else compile right here, and you can add more conditions if you want. We're just going to do 2, and then it ends it right here with the end if. And all of this is within the context of this set here, which will then get passed there. Kind of a lot at once, but that's why we're going through one at a time. All right, so what we're going to say here, remember this value is based on this name. And what I want to say is if this dot name, and by just leaving it here, it's basically saying it's true, but we don't really have to indicate that here, because if we leave it like this, it's implied that scenario is true. So we can just leave it like this. So it's saying if this name has a value, then move forward with this. The reason I don't have to put the brackets around it like we do here is because it's already wrapped within this block here. So it doesn't need to have that put there again in this context. If that's not true, it's going to move on to this. And what we want to do is replace this with something else. And you could put whatever you want here. I'm just going to say NA, meaning this is not applicable because it's not a model, but the audit activity will still be run start and it should all work together. And that's the end of the if, and it should work as expected. So let's run this now. So what we would expect is it's going to have NA and then the name of the model, NA again for that scenario. And if we go to the logs, we could probably see that, but let's just go right to Snowflake, refresh. So here it is, NA and the other two as they were before, and it's all working together. So now you can see how to use an if condition within it. And if we look at our code now, this is getting pretty legit in terms of what this looks like. And you can see we're using a couple different components now. We're using the target, we're using set, we're using arguments, we're using if conditions. You could have while loops. We're wrapping it in the run query. So there's a lot going on here. And I would recommend as you build your macros in a real environment, in a real scenario where there's more complexities going on, consider using different functionalities like this and organizing your macros in a way that makes sense, that's clean for other people to use and maintain in the long run. All right, so hopefully now you have a better understanding of how to use Jinja and macros together to create some pretty cool dynamic workflows within your project. And like I said at the beginning, this is from a much larger course on DBT. So if this is something you're interested in, you could check it out. It's called the Playbook for DBT, and I'll leave a link below that you can go learn more about it. But either way, thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you at the next video.